You're listening to the Cashology Podcast by FNBO, a place dedicated to helping you become more financially savvy every day. It's a little like school, but your only homework is living your best financial life. I'm your host, Justin, and class is now in session. Welcome back to the Cashology Podcast, a place where we dive deep into personal finance to bring you actionable insights and real-life wisdom. So in this episode, we talk about the 80-20 rule of budgeting. And so you might be familiar in a prior episode, check out episode 3 of this podcast, you may be familiar with the budgeting method called the 50-20-30 rule, where you allocate 50% of your budget to needs, 20% to savings and debt, and 30% to your wants. And so we touch on this a little bit in this episode, but kind of bringing in a new flavor of budgeting. And so Julia Conover, who's a branch manager here at First National Bank of Omaha, joins me in this episode and gives us some insight and the inner workings of what the 80-20 budgeting rule is, how to advise it, how to apply it, and kind of the flexibility it brings. And so I had a really great conversation with Julia. She's absolutely wonderful. I can tell she's passionate about banking and helping customers near and far reach their financial goals. So I hope you enjoyed this episode with Julia Conover talking about the 80-20 budget rule. Well, hey, Julia, thanks for joining the podcast episode. It's really great to have you.
Thanks. I'm so happy to be here. I appreciate the invite.
Yes. Oh, we love having guests. So kind of just as we get started, can you share just with our listeners a little bit about your background at the bank?
Absolutely. So in total, I've been with the bank about 8 years. I started here as a teller, and then I worked my way up. I'm currently a branch manager. So I've worn a lot of different hats in my time here.
For sure. Absolutely. Well, we love it. So today's topic is the 80-20 budgeting rule. So let's just go ahead and dive right in. Can you share, Julia, what the 80-20 rule is and the pros and cons of using it?
Yeah, absolutely. This is actually one of my favorite budgeting rules. It's one that I use personally. And so I'm super happy to talk about it. So the 80-20 rule is a budgeting method where 20% of your after-tax income is prioritized for savings, and the remaining 80% goes to everything else. So I love this one personally because there's no different allocation between your needs and your wants. It's very similar to the 50-30-20 rule, but you don't have to do that extra breakdown. So it makes it a lot easier, I think. It's also super flexible, easy to follow. I think the big thing for most people, right, is that you don't have to put that microscope against if you're spending too much on scooters or whatever that might be for your wants. For me personally, that's a big part of it.
I'm right with you. I was like, you're calling me out, Julia. You're calling me out.
Yeah, who doesn't spend a little too much on scooters, right? Especially with the pumpkin spice season.
Oh, it's back.
Yeah. Probably not the best method for somebody, though, who is prioritizing paying off debt. But if that is not something that's in your goals list, really, again, just a great, easy thing to follow.
I like that a lot. And I like how you said you use this version of the tool because I think I also do as well. I don't know if I've ever really thought about, what percentages am I actually saving? But I love like the simplicity of the 80-20 of I can't think too many plates spinning at the same time is not going to work for Justin. So I really like the 80-20. It's very simple, 2 buckets of kind of where your money goes. So, Julia, what tips can you give to those considering the 80-20 rule to help them remain committed to saving, 20% of, I imagine, the after-tax income or, their take-home pay?
Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, I think the biggest thing for people to remember is that this 20% can go to a lot of different savings goals and into a lot of different savings buckets. So it's not that you have to just make sure you're putting 20% in this liquid savings account, right? You can disperse this between your 401k. And if you're doing, little investing accounts, or if you just have multiple savings accounts for your different goals, however it is best going to keep you organized is what I would say. And a big thing when thinking about savings is that you have to make sure that your goals are specific and they're measurable. So, I want to save X amount of dollars for my vacation to Mexico next year. So I need to have this amount of dollars saved by this date in order to pay for that. And then, open a separate savings account for that individual goal. whether that be a liquid savings or whatever else kind of account that might be. So that way you can also like progress check yourself throughout that time up to your goal, right? To make sure if you're missing the mark that you can add more, or if you're over saving that maybe you can allocate that to another goal that isn't yet on your list or wasn't yet a priority. And then make your savings automatic. I cannot stress this enough. One of our investments and planning reps here when I was brand new to the bank had talked to me, and he said something that really stuck with me. He said, pay yourself first. So when I go to divvy up my like direct deposits, I set a certain amount of savings to go into my 401k, to go to my different investment accounts, and to go to my little savings buckets. But I never even see that money. Like my First National just pops it right into my savings, so I don't have to do anything. I don't know about everyone, but for me personally, sometimes when you see a bucket of money and then you have to take 20% of it away and put it other places, it's like, oh, well, I could be doing this with it, or I could be doing that with it, or I could go buy that pair of shoes, right?
Yes.
So if you just never look at it and it just goes in the savings accounts automatically, I think it makes it so much easier to just pretend that it's not there, but you know that it is contributing to those goals.
Yes. Out of sight, out of mind.
Absolutely.
I operate the same way of in this 80-20, like that 80% is the money I get to spend. I have no idea where that 20% is going, right? Like I've never seen it before in my life. Of course, going to retirement, but I liked what you said about multiple savings accounts and kind of like tracking, because I don't do that. But, I think today I think of one savings account and then I'm like dividing out of like, oh, this is the trip that we want to take to Mexico. This is, our Christmas vacation kind of a thing. And so it's all lumped in. But I really think I'm going to take that nugget of, okay, let's just do a separate account and then track that progress. And it's that measurable component of being able to see it kind of progress as time goes on. I really love that.
Yep, absolutely. And for most places, I know here at First National, if you want to have 10 savings accounts, you can have 10 savings accounts. And they can all be those high yield, paying accounts. So most places are going to give you that option as well, which I think is nice. We try to make it easy for the customer.
Perfect. We love it. So tell me, how rigidly should a guest be following the 80-20 rules? Like, so if we have listeners that are like absolute rule followers, what's your kind of recommendation to them?
So I think that just goes back to remembering that this is an easy and flexible plan. And it is that way for a reason, right? Because life happens. Life happens, and there are going to be times where you're going to have to make adjustments to the situations that are going on in your daily life. It is a guide to help you reach your savings goals. It is not hard and fast rules. You can adapt this as you go and as challenges may arise or, unexpected bills. I recently had to pay my insurance deductible for my roof. I know a lot of people are in the same situation, right? So that changed my allocation for some of those goals a little bit because I had to move a little bit more of that money to pay that over. So some months you're going to have things like that where you have to take a little bit out and allocate it to something else. And then other months, you have a surplus, fill that gap and put it back in those goals. And again, that also I think goes back to when you have your separate buckets and you can check yourself, as you go, maybe monthly or bi-weekly, however you choose to do that. So then when you do have those surplus months, you can see, where do I really want this to go to fill in the gap from my problem month? Yeah,
I like that flexibility because similar scenario of, a few months ago, we bought a new to us home, right? And probably leading up to it, very diligent, 80-20, maybe even more like a 70-30, right? Saving for that down payment. And then, man, we buy the house and it's like, oh, now we're doing like 99-1 because we have to like buy paint. We have to like buy new furniture and like all of this stuff. So that flexibility, I think, is kind of the 80-20 rule is like meeting you where you are in the moment. And I think the key component is constantly reflecting and reassessing of, like for us, we're like a 95, 99, 1% saving of, all right, well then at the end of this month, we need to recalibrate and figure out, okay, what's next month going to look like? What are we kind of doing there? So it's a constant check-in, but it's flexible for what you need.
Absolutely. I like how you said new to us house. I've been in that situation as well. And what you don't think about when you go from an apartment to a house is a washer and a dryer and a lawnmower, right? There's just things that you just don't plan for. And and that's where the flexibility is just delicious.
So Julia, is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners about the 80-20 rule?
So maybe just a quick recap, right? The 80-20 rule is simple. It is flexible. It's effective, right? It is something that is truly going to work if you continue to maintain that focus on doing it. And because it doesn't require you to track that needs and wants spending, it's definitely going to work better for somebody who doesn't have a focus of paying off debt.
The listeners that maybe are a little bit more local and maybe even those that are a little bit further away, is there any way that they could potentially reach out to you? Do you have any recommendations on resources of getting them to connected to better understand the 80-20 rule here?
Yeah, absolutely. So in retail banking, that's the heart of what we do. We are here for advice and guidance to customers and non-customers who maybe want to consider being customers as well. You can reach us either by calling the customer care center or popping into a branch here up at 204th and Maple, which is where I typically reside. You can reach us at our branch phone number of 402-602-8850. Or pop in and sit down and chat with a banker, because like I said, this is what we're passionate about, is providing that financial education to our customers. Me especially, when I started working at the bank, I didn't have any financial knowledge. It's not something that my parents had to provide to me. And a lot of people are in that situation. And just because you didn't grow up with it doesn't mean that you can't arm yourself with those tools to have a successful financial future. So come see us, call us, email us, however it is comfortable to get a hold of us. We want to talk to you. We want to see you.
Perfect. And we'll make sure we get those resources, links, contact information in the show notes. Again, Julia, thank you so much for joining the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Justin. You have a wonderful one.
For more resources, check out FNBO.com or subscribe to us on YouTube or on your favorite podcast platform. Consider giving us a rating or a review, as they help us get the word out. And remember, our discussions are designed to inform and inspire. For personalized advice, we always recommend consulting a financial professional. Until next time, keep on making smart financial choices, and thanks for listening to the Cashology Podcast. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender. Podcasts are for informational purposes only and not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations. When making decisions about your financial situation, consult a financial professional for advice. Podcasts are not regularly updated and information may become outdated. Deposit products are offered by First National Bank of Omaha, member FDIC. Investment products are not FDIC insured, not a deposit or other obligation of the bank. Not insured by any federal government agency, not guaranteed by the bank, may lose value. The Cashology Podcast, copyright First National Bank of Omaha.